And of course, Hoffelhouses, he's the mulligan master.
Yeah, and he's the one that's kind of undecided, making those decisions like, well, maybe we shouldn't mulligan this one. And of course,
I wonder who plays, though. They haven't told us who decides what cards to play.
Well, Lethal Detective, he's the mathematics guy.
Okay.
He's the one counting up the damage.
There you go.
All their roles make sense for exactly what they're doing. I like the way they've thought this out.
Yeah, pretty funny stuff moving into this one. This will be the first time we see Trinity College on the broadcast.
Guy on the left? No, it's not Flannel
No,
Guy.
Flannel Guy was yesterday. Come on. Flannel Guy's probably watching. An imposter! That's not Flannel Guy, I'm Flannel Guy.
These guys are laser focused. They are ready to play today.
Yeah, University of Maryland, we saw them on the broadcast last week, and they did pretty well for themselves, making it back. You know, still every team, of course, that we're seeing today is still undefeated. They are 3-0. So, I mean, powerful schools coming in, powerful teams, and we'll see what these guys have in store. I'm curious to see what kind of rogue deck this is going to be. I'm sure it's just a standard War Rogue, but I think with the changes to Warsaw Commander and players realizing that Patron Warrior is probably not going to be seen at all, or as often at least, we might be seeing some innovative decks, or at least some attempts at innovation.
Yeah, to kind of give you an idea, in the round of 40 for the America's Championship, we had one rogue in those 40 players that were there. So we had 120 deck submissions, and one rogue was there. And so now that Grim Patron may not be having kind of that stranglehold over the way that you tackle aggressive decks best, maybe Rogue steps back up to the plate to handle some of those aggressive strategies.
Sure.
Grim Patron shut them down for the most part. I mean, unless your deck was extremely refined and had a lot of push through that mid game, it was tough to really get your damage rolling. Well, Rogue, I think it's probably the second best guy up there to do the job.
Yeah, I was also thinking that maybe aggro Rogue strategies can sort of make a comeback. It's a little bit tough, though, because it's hard for them, even though a lot of times you think that their removal lines up nicely with Paladin. You have cards like Fan of Knives, and you have Blade Flurries to make those big board clears. A lot of times you use those board clears early on to stop the pressure, and then you don't have those later on when like Secret Paladins inevitably drop those big threats. So, but I think if you go with more aggressive rogue strategies, you can definitely race Secret Paladins because they can sometimes have really poor starts, and you can capitalize on it more. It's almost the same reason why Face Hunter is sort of a strong deck against Secret Paladin. You don't have tools like Unleash, but you have a lot more removal spells to complement your other strengths. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested to see how this is going to go, because that's actually a great point that you make. The fact that Rogue is not a single dynamic class. There are a couple different ways to play it, and while I think the aggressive strategies, they have to be timed a little bit better because they're so easy to disrupt. If everyone's ignoring that aspect of the matter, which you take a look at the metagame recently, everyone's kind of ignored it. It might be like in a prime opportunity to take advantage of this. Say for instance, someone wants to play some arcane golems. Shadow step them, keep them cheap, keep attacking with them.
Yeah.
You're looking at a lot of damage that could add up in a very short amount of time. And because we don't have that Grim Patron there, I think in addition to that, you're also likely to see just more aggressive decks in general. Like Zoo, for instance, outside of the Asian Pacific regions, it had basically been extinct from the metagame.
Yeah.
With no Grim Patron there, I think that deck is in a position to make a strong comeback.
Yeah, that's very true. And especially with decks like Tempo Mage out there as well. A lot of players are playing Tempo Mage. And also Druid. Druid is everywhere. And so one of the things that was holding Zoo back, which Zoo is a very strong deck against Druid, was that Patron Warrior was looming around and had such a good matchup against Zoo. So that could be a possibility as well. Whoa. We are going to move into the first match, and it is going to be Maryland on the Druid. And Trinity College throwing out what looks to be a Mech Warrior.
Not only is that a Mech Warrior, that is a Clockwork Knight that's in there. If you pay close attention to the competitive Hearthstone scene, there's a guy whose name is Zalay. He streams a lot of different kinds of warrior decks. And recently, he was actually playing a Mech Warrior deck and having some success with it. That Clockwork Knight was probably the most interesting card in the list because I had never seen it used before.
Yeah.
And when you catch people off guard with it, you get some explosive turns. And you take a look at Maryland, their reaction to this when they saw turn on Clockwork Knight was kind of like, what?
What the heck is going on?
Yeah, and Trinity College, look at this hand. They are in a position where they might run away with this game.
Holy moly! They can play Mech Warper and Warbot.
Maryland is going to need to draw Wrath here, I think.
Yeah, and one of the strengths of these mech decks right now is they empty their hand early, they put a lot of pressure, and then when you think you're in the clear, when you've cleared the board or you've shipped at the board, they drop a Fel Reaver.
Yeah.
And a lot of these classes use so much removal early on, they don't have an answer to something like a Fel Reaver.
TJ.
So that is crazy.
This board is frightening. This is 6 points of damage on turn 3, and they added 4 power to the board.
Their faces.
They feel like they don't know.
No.
It almost looks like, I don't know it almost looks like they're playing against this right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, this is a little bit ridiculous. So this Wrath, this was an important draw, but I think this might be like kind of a turn late almost.
Yeah, well, look at Swipe. Swipe allows them to clear the Spider Tank and the Anoratron. But then you enrage the Warbot, and you still have
7 points.
7 points of damage staring at you. So this is rough. Now, unlike Mech Mage, Warriors don't have as many finishers. Their finishers are sort of like weapons.
Yeah.
Which aren't as good of finishers as, say, like spells. But it helps you control the board better earlier on.
Now, here's the trade-off to that, though. The weapons have more long-term damage.
That's true,
So if your opponents aren't taunting up and forcing you to attack their minions, you actually get more mileage out of the weapons.
That's true.
Of course, the problem with them is if your opponent is a Druid and happens to play Druid of the Claw, Arcanite Reaper doesn't match up very well versus Druid of the Claw. So that card, in certain situations, will be paying off. It's a more risk and reward kind of card.
Yeah.
Like this is a very feast and famine strategy, but even Maryland, they have to consider, sure, they can attack this Noyatron. Do they want to lose their Shade this way? I think they have to.
Yeah. And we'll see what draw it is. Fire War X.
That's about perfect.
That
it's
lines
take out
up
that,
really nicely.
Takes out the Shade, keeps the 7 points rolling, even leaves 3 damage on the board. And this is kind of the example I was talking about. From a pure efficiency perspective,
that's better than a Frost Bolt.
Exactly. And so Maryland kind of has to hope that Trinity just draws dead and that they can answer what's happening right now. That is an extremely unlikely situation. And this is what I'm talking about. Without Grim Patron in the meta, you're going to see stuff like this happen until people have to take notice of this and really build their decks to fight against these kinds of decks.
You can't get greedy. You can't get greedy. This is the time where you're going to get punished for being greedy with your deck choices.
I love game number 1. I love it, TJ.
This is incredible.
This is like Christmas for me.
Trinity College knew exactly what they were up to. We saw their mulligans and went to their cam and they were like, we're so clever.
Got him.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are dead draws. 7, 8, 9, 10 points of damage available. There are draws that could end this. You know, here's the downside of these aggressive strategies, though. You will have turns like this.
Yeah.
No real progress is being made here other than getting more repetitive damage.
Which is, I mean, that's progress to me.
It is.
If I'm going face for 7 damage, I'm happy.
See, here's the thing. If they're against Priest, they're fearing Light Bomb, they're fearing Holy Nova. If they're against Warlock, maybe they're fearing some Shadow Mames, some Shadow Flames, some Molten Giants. If you're against Druid, you're not fearing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so let's see. If they swipe and then hero power down,
They're going to go to 1.
they're going to go to 1.
Yeah. So they have to hope Trinity College doesn't draw a single point of damage.
Yeah.
So there's any weapon will clear it. Heroic Strike if it's in here. Maybe there's Mortal Strike. Any charge damage.
There's a lot of things. I mean, they could even get Cycle. Like,
No, there's only a couple things that deal damage in this deck that's dedicated strictly to dealing massive amounts of damage.
They're trying to think which one's the best, and I don't think it really matters. There's
Pull
no
the highest power minion off.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you can recover. Like, say you draw Wrath and Keeper of the Grove and your opponent stumbles. Maybe.
Well,
wow. Not today.
There it
Korokron
is.
Elite is going to overkill this by 3 points of damage. Trinity College, turn 6 with Mech Warrior, take game number 1.
I love the new face of Warrior. And Trinity College, big smiles across their faces. At least one of them. And, well, Maryland has smiles too. You can't really be too upset about that one. At least the first time you see it.
Efficient early game minions. It's good to see you again.
Yeah. That's what a game. What a game. I'm excited to see what they have in store because they have a rogue.
Yeah, that's
Trinity
the other thing,
College is the school that has the rogue deck.
I feel like when I see that deck and they see the rogue in their lineup, I feel like these guys have been practicing a post-war song commander format.
It's like a post-apocalyptic. they're sitting
when
in
water and gasoline are the only currencies.
They're sitting in their bunker. We must practice for the one day where Patron is no longer there. Oh, man. That's funny. Yeah, well, I mean, literally anything could happen with this rogue. It could be Pirate Rogue, could be Aggro Rogue. Then they just throw us a real curveball and actually just go with standard Oil Rogue.
Just 2 like very normal decks afterwards.
Yeah,
that's not a bad strategy, though. I mean, if you lead with your most unique deck, your opponent does have to fear what you could potentially bring afterwards. The idea of the range that it gives to your style of play definitely can affect the way players are thinking because they're not just considering their own cards, they're considering what's likely to be in their opponent's decks, how do they play against it, you know, which cards should or you shouldn't be worried about. When you open up with a deck like this, I mean, very few people, this is on almost nobody's radar right now, that can strike fear into your opponents. Trinity College, this is a fantastic game 1.
Yeah, and Trinity's third deck is Druid. So Druid,
which is a crazy deck that we've never seen anybody play before.
Whoa! There is the aggressive variation of Druid that's been on the ladder for a week, 2 weeks now, with Leper Gnomes, Fel Reavers, Druids of the Saber, cards like that. So they could be bringing like an all-aggressive lineup, which
I think it's actually a good idea right now because kind of the way that you look at control decks, they really thrive in metagames that are kind of set in stone. You expect people to bring certain kinds of decks. You expect to have your cards line up very well versus what people are bringing. But now we're in a spot where we don't necessarily know what people are bringing to the table, and because of that, I think control decks at the moment are just a little bit weaker.
Yeah, or if not weaker, just riskier.
That's kind of like that's a better way to put it, I think.
Yeah, Patron was there to sort of a lot of times keep those fast decks in check. And now there's not too many things, so people are going to have to go back to the drawing board and really think about it. So there's as we get ready to move into the next game, you can take a look at the classes one more time. And University of Maryland, I'm thinking that their lineup is pretty predictable. Probably Demon Handlock. We saw the mid-range Druid, and then Temple Mage seems like a reasonable choice.
Well, just when we say it's predictable, though, mind you, we just talked about how Zoo could potentially make a comeback.
That's very true,
and with the Mage builds, a lot of those were kind of built to fight against popular warrior decks. Just as we say, and the Leper Gnomes! I love it! TJ, this is the best. This is my favorite day of Hearthstone, I think, in the past year.
At least this match.
Yeah.
That's not too bad of a curve, and Maryland are playing Zoo.
Yeah, this is great. Welcome back, Hearthstone. I love it. Turn 1 Leper Gnome, I don't think is a start that Maryland was necessarily expecting to see. But I think at the same time when they see it, they're not necessarily surprised because of what Trinity brought in game number 1. So this list, it's a very different kind of Druid deck. It was meant to get on the board running and follow up with a Fel Reaver, which is when your opponents are playing quite this aggressive, you have to use a lot of resources to take care of the early game because Druid can always punish you with Savage Roar. And so because of that, the Fel Reaver was very often just sticking to the board. And because it was just sticking to the board, 8 points of damage, who cares about how many cards you burn because your opponent's casting spells? You have an 8/8 for 5 mana.
Yeah, and there's a Fel Reaver too, so this is starting to look pretty scary for Maryland. They do get a really good start though, and with the Lance Carrier also in their deck, it seems like they're playing, sort of, I don't want to say old school, but a style of Zoo deck that really thrives on getting super strong board initiative very early in the game. So
Trinity, I like this play too, taking care of the 4/4 right away. They had the option to keep or to go this 2/2, but then that Nerubian is just going to run over their 2/4. So they know that they're going to have to be fighting an efficiency battle for the early stages of this game. This is still a pretty difficult matchup for the Druid, almost any way that you slice it. And so that little bit of extra health on that body maybe helps them fight for the board just long enough they can do something about it. But Maryland, with Lance Carrier and with Abusive Sergeant in their hand, they continue to maintain just that little bit of initiative they need to try to take over this game. And so Trinity, I'm curious here, are these the kind of guys who go for the juggler, or are these the kind of guys who play safe? I think with last turn, they're probably just going to hero power.
Yeah. Based on their warrior deck, I think they're the kind of guys that go for the juggle.
I think they're the kind of guys who are just going to play to their strength here. I mean, you take a look, that warrior deck, catching everyone off guard this week, I think totally great play. But in this situation, the Knife Juggler can be backbreaking, so why not protect him?
Yeah. And now they have double two of the claw. I mean, this damage is starting to ramp up, and Fel Reaver. Zoo is not usually a deck that has a direct answer to Fel Reaver. Sometimes they can power overwhelming. They do have a lot of things to buff their creatures, so they might be able to piece it together. But right now, unless they get a Doom Guard out of this Void Caller, then they don't have a way to deal with it.
Yeah, so Voidwalker first here. They don't want the Void Caller to be pulling that demon out of their hand. When it dies, it's going to pull a random demon out of your hand. So you want to play the ones that are less impactful on the board first to maximize your chance to really get something. So that Void Terror that's on the left side of their hand, that's just a 3-mana 3/3 minion. That's the one they do not want to get out of this Void Caller right now. Mal'Ganis isn't the best, but it will contest the Fel Reaver directly. So that one's not always so bad. But they have a ton of options in their hand of how they want to approach this turn. So you're going to see them take their time, really figure out what's going to maximize their chances to make this happen, and that's where their game plan is going to be right now. So to me, my instinct is Knife Juggler, Lance Carrier, Voidwalker, but it looks like they want to get a little bit more information and see what they can do afterwards. I'm curious exactly what they're thinking about when they make this play.
They pointed at phase for a second, which led me to believe that they might Void Terror. try and push the damage. Void Terror. Oh, wow. So...
well, there's Mal'Ganis on the board, and they're going to just try to contest this this Fel Reaver as best they can, and even life tapping afterwards. So they're valuing the card advantage pretty much above all else in this situation. I mean, this is a tough spot for Trinity. They can take out this this Voidwalker, but it's a 5/5. It's going to leave your Fel Reaver at 3 health. And you're staring down at Mal'Ganis right now, and you don't have a way to kill it.
Yeah, and you're burning your cards.
Yeah.
Well, the burn effect from Fel Reaver doesn't really matter until you get to the point where you're fatiguing.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter until you add a card.
Here's the thing. Fel Reaver's burning cards from your deck. The idea behind this card is that the impact of this size of a minion at 5 mana will have done so much damage to your opponent that they don't have an opportunity to climb back at this point. I actually really like this in charge mode because now they're actually posturing quite a bit of damage here. So the cards that Maryland will burning can come into effect, but that's only if they get into a long game attrition battle, which is something that Warlocks fight very well because of their hero power. It allows them to draw an extra card every turn at the cost of 2 life. Now, while the Mal'Ganis is out, that doesn't cost you any life. It just costs you the mana. So that's kind of playing right in their hands. They foresaw this situation leading to a spot like this, and they want to make sure they get as much out of it as they possibly can.
Yeah, and if you look at it, Maryland can just play a Doomguard out of hand, and with the buff, it'll go up to, what, an 8-9? Or, sorry, 7-9? So they can actually take out the Fel Reaver without the Doomguard dying, and kill the Druid of the Claw, which, you know, sort of protects one of their creatures. Like, they can heal it.
They're going to leave that Fel Reaver on the board. And honestly, it's not that big of a threat right now. Almost any of these minions would challenge the other one directly because the Fel Reaver's there. So they want to force their opponent to the decision of trading here and just take the efficient ones while they can. Again, fighting that attrition battle and making sure they're staying ahead. And so far, that plan is working beautifully. Yeah,
really is.
You know, you look at this and you go, oh, it's 4 cards versus 4 cards. Well, Trinity's getting their deck burned away. So they're the ones actually having to race against the damage clock. And they're the ones having to answer the minions on the board right now. The deck that is dedicated to offense currently has to play defense.
Yeah. So Trinity here, they have a couple options. They can go with Druid of the Claw and then hero power down the Mal'Ganis to preserve their Fel Reaver and push 8 damage to face. But then again, they just have a Fel Reaver on board. It contests the Mal'Ganis, but they're still burning cards, which can be risky at this point when you've already burned so many.
Yeah, they're just going to go for sacrificing the Fel Reaver. I would venture to say it was a minor liability this game, not too much of a one. Really, the big story here is that if you go card for card with a Zoo deck, the fact that it's got the hero power to draw 2 extra cards is what sets you behind. Especially if you don't have the same kind of longevity that you have if you're, say, like a typical Druid deck, which has a lot of high endgame stuff. This one is filled with Knife Jumpers and Druid of the Saber and stuff that's very dedicated to the early game. So their average draw right now is significantly lower than what it would be in a traditional Druid deck.
All right, well, Maryland's just going all in. They're okay with discarding the Implosion to have a strong board like this. And Trinity does draw into Savage Combatant. They can play their whole hand here, but they leave themselves susceptible to this Doomguard.
Yeah, I'm curious, actually, if playing your whole hand is better than just Savage Combatant and the Hero Power.
Hero Power?
Yeah, which I think the Hero Power is just a little bit better, considering that Maryland's going to feel committed to taking out the Savage Combatant. The fact that it's giving your Hero Power 2 extra attack while it's in play, that's a pretty darn big deal.
Yeah.
And so after Maryland takes out that Savage Combatant, you're looking at the refill of the Shade, using the Living Roots to deal the final 2 points of damage to that Doomguard, and then whatever you draw next. So the life total's pretty darn even here. It's really going to be a matter of whether or not Maryland's card economy can outmatch what Trinity College is going to throw at them. So this is still a pretty close game.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So they are going for the Shaded X Rama's plans. Oh, wow. Huh. This is really interesting to me.
Well, this was the play that I was thinking of initially, because those 1/1s can actually be kind of tough for 2 Warlocks to deal with. And they represent the ability to trade with the Doomguard next turn, or sometimes they represent the ability to just beat Savage Roar tokens.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. And with 2 minion buffs in hand, sure, they do have access to 11 damage right now, but their opponents are at just too high of a life total for that to be a realistic possibility. And if they're buffing that, wow, they still are trading. Interesting. And so now,
that's a good pickup.
Here's the thing. Maryland drew fairly dead that turn, and Trinity College drew one of the most resilient minions in the deck. their position now suddenly looks favorable to me.
Yeah. And now that Shade's there, that Shade provides so much flexibility. You can keep it stealth and hope you draw on a Savage, or if you do draw on a Savage, you can keep it stealth to guarantee that second target. Or you can use it to trade up.
I mean, Voidwalker's not effective in this situation.
But think about it, they drew a lot of their powerful creatures.
And that does give them the ability to maybe start to hack into this board just a little bit. So there's the Piloted Shredder trade.
Oh, wow.
4-3 is one of the...
Look at Trinity College is like, oh, that feels bad, man. Feels good for us.
A 4-4 is the only minion that can be larger than this. They got a 4-3 out of it.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be going their way right now, even despite what an almost disaster that Bell Reaver was.
Yeah, and this game has a completely different landscape now. Trinity College can clear the board, develop whatever threat they're going to kill. Oh, man.
Woo, doggy. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, too. When you're playing against a Zoo deck, you have to be mindful of how many ways they have to buff their smaller minions.
Yeah.
Even though that these are big deal, it's 2 and it's a 1-3.
You got to respect it.
Yeah, you do have to respect it. And Druid can often suffer from this by just having smaller minions trade into larger ones. But they want even more card economy out of this. They're going to hang on to this swipe and make sure they can check the next turn as well. They have this one pretty easily checked. So I think it's a smart decision to hang on to their resources and try to make the most of everything they've got, because they've only got a few cards left.
Well, they also have lethal next turn on board.
Yeah.
Especially with a tap and a Flame Hip is such a terrible draw at this stage. You cannot afford to take that 3 damage.
Dr. Boom's not enough.
Yeah, you play Flame Hip, you're just dead to board.
You power overwhelming a Boombot and try to pick off one of these minions. They're not going to. And so that swipe is going to end this game. TJ Trinity, 2 back-to-back aggressive decks. Maryland can't find a way to check that damage. We're taking a 2-0 lead for Trinity.
And Maryland just looks absolutely defeated right now. They're thinking, what happened? These 2 aggressive decks just took us out very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, what happened is the Warsong Commander, never forget. What a series this has been so far.
Yeah, and now Trinity has 3 opportunities left to take a win with their Rogue deck.
Yeah, which is now, at this point, that we've seen 2 wacky decks.
Yeah.
There's got to be something about this Rogue deck that we're excited to see.
Judging by these other 2 decks, it's probably just going to be some kind of aggro Rogue.
Just Cold Bloods and Ardent Squires.
Just Cold Bloods, Ardent Squires, yeah, just straight up going for it. Yeah, Cold Light Oracles, just the whole shebang. I mean, and this is a deck that comes back from time to time. This is a deck that when the meta becomes too slow, Aggro Rogue comes back and definitely punishes you.
I was just about to mention, Just Saying had been playing around with a Rogue deck that featured Cold Light Oracles and was an extremely aggressive build of the deck. Given that these guys, I think, have been paying attention to some of the popular professional streamers out there who play at the very high end of competition, Just Saying might be a guy that's on their radar, and maybe they're taking some notes from him.
Yeah, that could be a possibility. Also, Pirate Rogue. I would say the Pirate Rogue should not be off the table.
There's even pirates riding
in this
parrots.
Discussion. There is. There's pirates riding parrots, and Skycam Crag, he can make a big board impact in these games. Strifecrow, who we actually had on the Collegiate Hearthstone Championship casting test last week, he piloted a Pirate Rogue 2 Legend on EU with a very high win rate.
Really?
Yeah.
I was unaware of that.
He did. It was at the beginning of the October season, so just about 2 weeks ago.
Just getting them.
He went from rank 4 to Legend with only a very few losses.
Yeah, Ship's Cannon's one of those cards that when it's firing on point, it's on point.
When it takes out a shade, you're like, yes.
That was my first experience with that card. Is I had innervated a shade out on turn 1. My opponent went Ship's Cannon, and I was like, should I kill this? I was like, nah, Wild Growth, go ahead. And then they just played 2 pirates, and both of them at the same next turn. I was like, yeah, that's going to do this. So I'm going to game number 2 real quick.
Yeah. I think that deck, it has, well, I don't want to say has a lot of potential. It has a reasonable amount of potential.
What it really has to me is surprise factor.
I think that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, and that's one of those elements that it's tough to measure that in a card game. Like, what is that actually worth? Well, it depends on everyone else's preparation. If they're playing decks that are very safe, surprise factor doesn't really mean a lot to them. But if your opponents are playing decks that are kind of targeted at certain strategies, that's where that surprise element throws them off, because you're playing cards that they're not prepared to deal with.
Yeah. Not many people are prepared to deal with a shady dealer.
That's been a 5-4 every time I've played against it.
Yeah, it's, I mean, that thing
it's
can be very tough to deal with. Yeah, you just need a pirate. That's it. That's
a pretty easy situation to have happen. Now, you do have to make the decision to play pirates.
Yeah.
It is something you have to do. I personally would like to see more pirate support. I would like a pirate implosion.
One I think one good pirate card would put that deck
Okay, here's
overboard.
here's my suggestion.
That's a pun.
We make Plunder the Port. It's 4 mana.
Okay.
It deals 2 to 4 damage. If it deals 2 damage, you get 4 1/1 pirates. If it deals 4 damage, you get 2 1/1 pirates.
I'm just thinking about like the thought of you casting a spell and pirates appearing.
Yeah, and they all go, ha ha!
Ha ha!
Yes.
Wow.
That's what I want to see. I want to see a pirate implosion. And couple that with ship's cannon. Yeah, let's see who the real zoo decks are after this one.
I have a card. It's called Pirate Commander. It's a 2/3 for 3 mana. And it gives all your pirates with 3 or less attack charge.
Charge!
Yeah.
Like 19 Rs in there.
Yeah.
I'm liking where this is. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Good.
Good.
I just think, yeah, one good pirate card, like Plunder the Deck.
This is where they just bring Oil Rogue and like nothing interesting happens in game 3. We're like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, we should take this time to remind you guys that when these players lock in their deck, they only lock in the classes. They don't lock in the decks. Sideboarding is allowed, so in between matches, these guys can edit their decks, go and change a few cards, or even change the whole identity of the deck. And some schools decide to have a truce where they agree beforehand to not change their decks, but we have yet to see a team really switch things up and change the whole identity of their deck in order to try and gain an advantage. This is playoff stage, so
it's also a difficult thing to do to predict accurately what your opponents are bringing. Like I imagine at this time, University of Maryland's kind of looking at their decks and going, they have brought 2 extremely aggressive builds to the table right now. Maybe we should be preparing for this in game number 3.
Yeah.
That's a concern that's on your mind when your opponents have been this, unsubtle about their strategy thus far. They played Leopard Gnome in a Druid deck, and they played Cogmaster in a Warrior deck. These are cards you don't typically find in these builds. They've been caught off guard twice in a row. They need to do something for game number 3 and 4 and 5.
There's always the risk, though, that you make a change to your deck because you think that your opponent's third deck is going to be, similar to the other 2, similar game plan. Then your opponents go ahead and they play Mill Rogue and catch you completely off guard.
We were talking about yesterday, Kidnapper, one of the perfect counters to Haunted Creeper.
It is.
6 mana cards deal very well with 1/2s.
Nobody wants to deal with a Haunted Creeper. And you can only have 2 saps in your Rogue deck. 2 Kidnappers, 4 saps, boom. Never have to deal with a Haunted Creeper again. All right, jumping into the match. That is a ship's cannon.
No way.
Yes, it is.
This is Trinity College. If you guys are not paying attention to Trinity College right now, you need to start paying attention because this is what happens in Hearthstone.
We'll full screen them so you can pay attention even better.
This is what happens in Hearthstone when formats are wide open. You will see people try to find ways to compete for games in ways that you have not seen traditionally.
Yeah, and right now they're up 2-0 in this series over Maryland. Maryland playing, tried and true decks. Trinity College playing play minions go face decks.
Yeah. That's a pirate running a parrot.
Yes, it is.
This is awesome. Okay, so I would love to give you analysis about what this matchup is and what players are actually thinking, but I don't have practice versus Pirate Rogue.
No.
I don't have practice with Pirate Rogue.
I actually have about 40 games of Pirate Rogue played.
That's about 40 more than I have.
I'm like 3rd in the world.
Right behind 6-0 and Strife Crow.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, Ship's Cannon is a tough card to deal with. In Maryland, they don't even look surprised at this point. They're like, we expected it.
Yeah. It's a tough card sometimes. When you have a Wrath in your hand, pretty clean answer. Ideally, I think you'd like to be using the Wrath to grab a little bit more tempo. But in this situation, once again, your opponent has been very unsubtle about their approach. So because of that, you can feel a little bit more secure in the fact that using a Wrath on turn 2 is almost always the right play here. Just get your opponent's stuff off the board, try to disrupt their synergy between their cards, and let the natural power of your cards take over. Because again, Druid is rolling into stuff like Druid of the Claw. They'll oftentimes have very powerful 6-drops, whether it be Emperor Thorson, sometimes Sylvanas, and they roll into turn 7, which is super dangerous, the Ancient of Lore. They can make back all that card advantage that they perhaps lost trying to stabilize the board, and then run away with the game. So Trinity College has to find a way to launch the assault on Maryland this game. If they fail to do so, Maryland's going to run away with it. So this is a pure setup turn right now. They're looking to play that Bloodsail Raider in the left in their hand. And it gets +1 power for each power that your weapon has.
Yeah, starts at a 2/3. So with a Deadly Poison on your dagger, it becomes a 5/3. which contests a lot of things.
Yeah, but Trinity's gotten kind of the rude awakening here. They have to deal with the 4-6 first.
Yeah, well, they do have a way to deal with it with Blade Flurry. But that's a lot of resources expended to take out one card.
Oh, they're going all in.
Wow.
I love it. Okay, so Deadly Poison's going to make that Dagger 5. Sousy deck in is charged because they have a weapon.
Let's hope they don't have Big Game Hunter.
Bloodsail Raider is a 7-3 at the moment. Now, Maryland does have a swipe in their hand, so I would venture to say they're going to take this out. And then after that, Trinity College is kind of down to the felt in terms of their card economy.
Yeah. And that was the end of Pirate Rogue.
So these next couple of draws really going to play a big role in deciding this game for Trinity College.
Oh, no!
Assassin's Blade's a pretty darn good draw.
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent damage, and they can start piling that damage on. Assassin's Blade is that card that you put in rogues that don't have a clear win condition, because it sort of opens up a secondary win condition.
Yeah. And the problem here, though, again, is that their early game has been so disrupted at this point that Maryland is pretty likely to start running away with the game. So, once again, Trinity in a spot where this draw is paramount importance. And Sousy Captain, not the best here, but it's better than nothing. You still get a 3-3 body. But Trinity, I think that their game plan is linear right now. I think you start pointing it upstairs and go with it. They're going to try to fight this attrition battle and hope for the best.
Yeah, hoping for the best is really just not the right thing that you want to do. They can actually Blade Flurry here and try and protect their Sousy Captain. And then play a Sky Captain Crag next turn and he's buffed because of the Sousy Captain.
I think they're losing it just a little bit too much damage if they do that.
Yeah.
The longevity that the Assassin's Blade can help provide is probably worth a little bit more at the moment. And maybe Maryland even missteps here. Like, say they played the Druid of the Claw and just pass this turn.
Yeah.
Then Trinity College is a great setup with the Blade Flurry versus the turn prior where they had little to nothing going on. So still a little bit of wiggle room here, but they are running out of time.
Yeah. Now, Maryland, even though they don't really have probably much experience against Pirate Rogue, they can guess that leaving Pirates on the board is
Probably
usually a bad idea. Yeah. So they're going to go ahead and clear it off. Most likely go ahead and play a Piloted Shredder here. They can go out Druid of the Claw.
Yeah, I think at this stage, since you're not facing too much damage, I think the Piloted Shredder is safe. But Druid of the Claw is going to start putting a little bit more pressure on your opponent. It does stall the Assassin's Blade outright. Trinity's going to have to find a way to fight through this. And Sky Captain Crag. Apologies.
Not to be confused with Ground Captain Craig.
Unfortunately, he will face the demise of the Keeper of the Grove.
Disclaimer, that's not the actual animation. We use production magic.
Whoa! Hang on now.
That's a lot of damage.
I mean, just maybe is what comes to my mind. But Maryland drew the second swipe, so they even have an answer to the 5-4 and the additional damage provided here. For Trinity, I think this just has to be a Blade Flurry turn. You need Captain Greenskin to get in at least one attack, I think, in this situation.
Yeah.
Your opponents use a Wrath. They have used a swipe at this point.
But at the same time, Captain Greenskin getting an attack is the same as you using that third charge of the dagger that you get from Captain Greenskin.
It's true, but you're also taking 5 potential damage on the board.
Yeah.
And you're pulling 8 damage because of the Blade Flurry. So you're actually only losing 1 damage here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the play. But again, that swipe is just, swipe and Pilot Shredder to shut this down. They're going to go ahead and use Eviscerate first and say, hey, if you want to hero power this Captain Greenskin, you're more than welcome to.
I think that Eviscerate, it feels like that Eviscerate needs to go to the face at some point. You're out of cards.
Well, it might too, but here's the other thing. At this point, their life total is, granted, it's a precious resource, but still one nonetheless. Pilot Shredder comes down here. They do get that extra attack out of the Assassin's Blade, and they already got the swipe out. So now maybe there's a chance to creep back into this just because they have the Blade of Blade left over. That's always a possibility as well. Does cost 0 mana, but when you have 9 of it available, mana is not really what you're too worried about here. And given their prior game plan, I don't think they can continue to fight this attrition battle. I think they got a Blade Flurry and hope for the best, and their opponents get a 3-2.
Yeah.
So this contested directly, and now Maryland the one with big initiative here, but they do draw a kind of dead card.
They're just going to use it to clear.
Yeah, I think so. I think at this point you got to try to turn these cards into something. And 2 damage, kill your minion, and keep my 3-2 around.
I can set up for next turn lethal with Force of Nature.
Yeah.
Force of Nature, so.
This is a good play.
Yeah. Not that they really had too many options. But still.
Not too greedy, though. Yeah. 3 kills.
Backstab is not going to do it.
Yeah.
And Pirate Rogue came and Pirate Rogue fell. We'll see if they actually continue to go with the Pirate Rogue. I can see Trinity College.
They wanted a 3-0.
They said, he said it's fine. I saw him mouth the words. It looked like he said it's fine. They know that they're still in a good lead. Druid, it's a deck that can do some pretty crazy things. So they realize that Pirate Rogue does have some weaknesses, but they can overcome.
Yeah, still smiles across the board over there in Maryland. It's a little bit of a sigh of relief at this point, I'd say. You didn't get 3-0'd by the Pirate Rogue. You are living to fight another day at this point, and that journey of 1,000 miles begins with that single step. Game number 1's in the books for them.
Whoa. Philosophical words.
I was just taking it from a song, but...
Oh. Well, 2-1 in favor of Trinity College now. Still have 2 opportunities to win with the Pirate Rogue, or, if they decide to change it up. But you sort of have to stick with your identity here. Bringing Pirate Rogue is a very bold statement. If they switch now, all of their fans out there are going to be saying, man, I was really rooting for them because they brought some creative decks and they had a Pirate Rogue, and then they switched it up and went with a normal Oil Rogue.
Sometimes, TJ,
just throwing it out there.
It's not necessarily about winning the game. It's about sending a message.
Yeah. Well, when you can send a message while winning the game,
it's always better.
Yeah.
But sending the message, I think is clearly step number 1 for Trinity College at this point. I think they're going to stick to Pirate Rogue.
Yeah.
I think it's the build.
Yeah, we'll see. We can take a look at University of Maryland's decks, the ones that they have left. They still have Mage and Warlock left. We've seen the Warlock. It is a Zoo Warlock. Their Mage deck we've yet to see. So probably can guess Tempo Mage, but we could see decks like Mech Mage, or even we saw a Freeze Mage yesterday. So that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, I would venture to say it's probably right up along the lines of the aggressive builds. Tempo Mage been such a successful deck lately. And its builds are just getting better and better every single day. When you have a lot of competitive players working on a single kind of strategy, you'll see new ideas. Sometimes those ideas are extremely good ideas. They kind of stick to the builds for a while, and you get closer and closer to having the right 30 cards.
Yeah.
Instead of a list where you have 26 of your 30 and the last 4 are kind of questionable choices.
Yeah. And is there any other Mage decks that I've forgotten about that might come back in popularity? There are some value Mage decks out there. With like Sludge Belchers, Duplicates.
Yeah, those have been kind of creeping up a little bit. I saw Amnesia playing a very grindy style of Mage deck where it tried to just run you out of cards and use Ronin and Archmage. And I'm sorry, not Ronin and Archmage. Sneed's old Shredder and Archmage sort of as its finishers. He just wanted super high inevitability.
Yeah. Also, Echo Mage is still out there.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Mage, I think, has the most builds across the board of things it can do.
Most diversity, I guess.
Yeah.
For any one class. Rogue's getting up there.
It certainly is.
There's Aggro Rogue, there's Pirate Rogue. Then you have to look at the sub-archetypes. Control Pirate Rogue, Aggro Pirate Rogue. Definitely a lot of diversity there.
I want to see those in the meta snapshot.
All right, looks like we're moving in, and that's an Azure Drake.
Yeah, I think they tried to go for the trifecta here. And went, you know what? We are just regular Rogue players. Let's play a strategy we know is pretty trifecta.
Or maybe they just put Azure Drakes in their Pirate Rogue. It's exactly what they did. Wow. Buccaneer is one of the best one-drops in the game for Pirate Rogues.
Yeah, this will likely force a coin out of Maryland to hero power that off straight away, which may seem like a pretty big investment to have an entire card just to get your opponent to coin. But the bigger story here is that they're throwing off Maryland's tempo just a little bit. So if they can take advantage of the fact that tempo loss has occurred, that's really what they're gunning for in a situation like this. So in the event that Maryland can't make up for this, you're looking at a pretty darn good game for Trinity. But they have Frostbolt in their hand, as well as a 3-2 now on the board. So they will lose their 3-2, and they will face down a 3-3. But the bigger story here is that having that Frostbolt does allow them to clear this once again.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, Pirate Rogue is a tempo deck. They don't have huge amounts of burst. They do with, very specific combos. Sometimes they usually only run, I believe, one Tinker Sharpsword Oil. And so Tinker Sharpsword Oil with Blade Flurry is like their burst. But, Tempo Mages cannot burst too. Mages have the same thing with Fireballs and like something like a Flame Waker or double Flame Waker already on the board. So it's hard for them to come back on the board when they lose it, and it's hard for them to win in situations where they fall behind early, which are similar weaknesses to a tempo deck.
Maryland really weighing their options here. You know, I think they're pretty reluctant to just Frostbolt a 3/3 that doesn't really have a board impacting effect. I don't think Flamewaker is a big consideration this turn, but they are now thinking about it. Flamewaker would have been an absolute blowout for Trinity. They would have been able to take it out and then have 2 3/3s on board. And now at this point, you look at the situation and you go, Trinity's running really low on cards. This gets kind of dangerous. But Maryland's hand, you know, Trinity doesn't know what it is, but we can see it. It's pretty darn clunky right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. Double Azure Drake is really not what you want because 4 health on a 5-mana creature is not the best. It's taken out by a lot of smaller things, especially from this Pirate Rogue deck, which is not short of damage at all. And they're going to push some damage here.
I would like to see the hold one more time because they have Backstab and
Oil.
The Tinker Sharpsword Oil. But now Maryland with an opportunity perhaps to capitalize on it. But still quite a ways to go.
Mirror Image is actually a really good pickup because it can protect their Flamewaker here. Having a 1-mana spell is all the difference. In Trinity College,
well,
that's okay.
That's not a terrible draw here either, but the problem is, how do they chew through that Flamewaker? That Flamewaker's got to go. And so they can get through it because of the Tinker Sharpsword Oil, and they can even push a few points damage here. But I think they're likely to lose whichever minion's on. And again, if they could see Maryland's hand, I don't think this would be a tough choice for them. But the fact that they can't see it is really impacting how they choose to use these resources.
Yeah.
They're precious right now. And if they knew that Maryland couldn't play a minion next turn and ping something off, I think they would jump at this turn.
Yeah. So they can play the South Sea Captain and use the Backstab and their South Sea Captain to clear off the mirror images, and then use their Dagger and the SI Agent to clear off the Flamewaker, which would make it so ping next turn. Now it looks like they sort of went the other way around here.
Well, the SI7 Agent isn't a pirate, so it won't get the benefit.
Well, that's what I meant. They could use it to clear off the Flamewaker.
And then you want to keep the 3/2, the pirate.
3/2 alive.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
Either way, they do end up with a minion on board. They do end up with a dagger. And Maryland, again, if they ping this turn, they're not necessarily playing a minion. So Unstable Portal really the only catalyst to getting board development this turn. You know, if Trinity draws a powerful minion here, you're looking at a pretty good shape for them. Yeah, it's just going to be Arcane Intellect. And those are 4 clunky cards. Their hand doesn't provide any presence on the board. Trinity College, this is the turn for them to capitalize. They draw a good minion here. It's great. So Ship's Cannon's going to be the minion, and we're going to see Tinker Sharpsword Oil as well, and this is the push for damage. They are all in at this point.
If this goes on the South Sea Captain, it did! Hello!
All right, well, that's 10 points of damage they dealt this turn, and they have 12 sitting on board. Maryland doesn't have an answer to this at the moment.
They can Arcane Intellect into something, but if they don't draw into anything, what are they playing? A mirror entity?
This is bad news for them.
Unstable Portal?
This is the power that these aggro decks have, too. When you don't take care of the board presence they have, they can punish you for it. And look at Trinity. They are on the edge of their seat right now.
I can tell you, Pirate Rogue is a stressful deck to play. Because you all in very early.
It's like actually plundering a port. You go there and you're like, if we get caught, we're done.
Yeah, exactly. I need to get away with this booty. A very stressful situation.
I picture Loot Hoarder being picked up by the Pirates. You know, he's like just running away with that big chest of gold.
Mm-hmm.
I think he fits right in.
He does. Well, Arcane Intellect has to pick up a Frostbolt or a Flame Cannon.
It's a second mirror entity and a Fireball.
Wow!
Nothing castable relevant this turn. Maryland's going to drop to 4 life, TJ.
They can pick up an Unstable Portal, but what can they even get that's going to help them? Is there anything that deals 3 damage? They could get a Cork on Elite.
Or they could get a Goblin Auto Barber.
I mean, it's something to place on the board, which is better than nothing.
Oh,
the Shady Dealer!
My gosh.
He's so shady!
Now, here's the other thing, too. Does Trinity value the presence they have on board right now? And so the question is...
They can pick this... Oh, no, he's not a pirate. Not a pirate.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get the Ship's Cannon.
Yeah. Shady Dealer, if that card was a pirate, that'd actually be pretty absurd.
It would, yeah.
Either way, it's a 5-4 right now, and Trinity, they're the ones with the options, and that's the important part of this game.
Do they feel... Okay, so if they trade with the Ship's Cannon...
I think if you're going to trade, you trade with the dagger. And the reason why is because you're getting 2 points out of the ship's cannon now.
Yeah.
And if they don't deal with it, you're getting 2 damage next turn. So you're still getting the same
more
amount of damage
Yeah.
out of this minion. Very likely anyway.
You're vulnerable to Flame Strike, and you saw their hand was clunky. You don't really know if they're playing, like, I guess Flame Strike would lock them out of the game anyway.
Most likely.
Yeah. So, you know what, I kind of like trading with the dagger.
Here we go.
Oh,
they're going upstairs
they're
with it.
going for it.
Here we go, TJ. This is it. Maryland has to draw something to take care of the board right now, and I think Flame Strike might be it.
Flame Waker, I don't think is enough. They can Flame Waker Fireball, but then they still go down to 1, even if they clear off the 2 high attack creatures.
That's the thing here. They can clear the 2 high attack creatures off the board, or 2 high attack minions off the board here, but they're going to 1. How do they deal 28 points of damage before 2 weapon swings happen?
It's possible. And that's even if Trinity College doesn't find a way to deal 1 damage next turn. That could even be as simple as a pirate, because Ship's Cannon is most likely going to be the creature that's left up on the board.
Yeah.
So
they don't have an option, I don't think, though.
No. They have to, you know, it doesn't really matter where the Flame Waker shots go, because they can trade into the 6-3 and then fireball the 5-4, because you're just leaving the Ship's Cannon up on the board then.
Yep. Wow, Maryland. They're living on a prayer at this point.
1 point of damage is all they need. And that's
Sky
Oh my
Crag
gosh.
is going to end this game. Trinity College shades are on. They take a 3-1 victory.
That is incredible.
Unbelievable series from them. I have never seen anything like this in competitive Hearthstone right now. And you may think to yourself, oh, well, you know what? These guys aren't full-time professionals. They're competing for 6 figures in scholarship money right now.
That's no joke.
They're not taking this lightly.
No joke.
If they're playing these kinds of decks, they think that they have an advantage with them. You wouldn't just be throwing away a series.
Yeah, and with that, Trinity College moves to a 3-0 record, or sorry, 4-0 record on the season, which qualifies them for the playoff stage. Of course, they do want to win more from here on out to, you know, guarantee a better seeding going into the playoffs. But having that peace of mind that they qualified for the playoff round in a week where they ran Pirate Rogue
with Sky Captain Crag,
as dealing the final blow to their opponent is, you know, that's just swag.
And this is a note to take of. If you're a Hearthstone player right now, log in, build some new decks, and play some new Hearthstone. Because with Warsong Commander not there, you're not going to be facing...
A new dawn has arrived.
It has. And what a way to kick off this week with Trinity College taking a 3-1 over Maryland.
Yeah.
What a series.
Yeah, definitely. Still got a couple fantastic matches left for you today. George Mason versus Boston University is going to be next. But before that, make sure you guys head over to social media. Head on Twitter. Let us know what you thought of those matches, because I'm excited to hear what you guys thoughts on Pirate Rogue and dealing the final blow with Sky Captain Crag. You know, pirates riding parrots.
I haven't seen anything like this in competitive Hearthstone history.
Yeah, this is a really momentous occasion. Also, you can head over to hearthstone.tespa.org if you want to check out how your favorite school is doing, or look at any of the upcoming matches. And we'd also like to give a big shout out to our sponsors who make all of this possible: Gunner, Twitch, and Steel Series. Also, a special thanks to TeSPA for organizing it all. Without them, we wouldn't be in this position, and we wouldn't get to see fantastic Hearthstone games like that. But we do have to go to a quick break. When we come back, it is going to